with your Second Life login credentials. You can think of it as a back-end service. There's customer support whom you can contact for support with your Tilia account, but there's no additional way to access it.
Okay. So what does this all mean for just your average Second Life resident? I mean, if there is such a person, right? Will Second Life suddenly be different for them? What exactly will happen on August 1st that those in the community can prepare for? What should they expect?
But nothing about Second Life resident coverage. But really, if you only deal with Linden dollars and you do not keep a USD balance in Second Life, nothing changes. The vast majority of Second Life residents, the quote-unquote average Second Life resident, doesn't have a USD wallet, so nothing will change for them. But if you do have a USD wallet, you will need to consent to the Tilia Terms of Service.
Okay. Patch, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, actually, if you do have a US dollar balance, usually through the sale of the Linden dollars from the Lindex, you'd need to consent to the Tilia Terms of Service at that point when you would log into your Second Life account on the web. You'd continue to access your account through the secondlife.com account pages, and you'll see some minor UI changes to more clearly indicate, where you're accessing services provided by Tilia. As part of that, you'd have to provide ID for verification if you wish to process credit from your US dollar balance to a payment method currently like PayPal or Skrill. But it doesn't mean that anyone who uses PayPal or Skrill to pay for Second Life services needs to do anything. Only those who will be processing credit.
Okay. So when the initial announcement went out with our initial blog post and then the forum reactions, there was some concern and confusion about a few things. Clearly, in looking at the forums, we've seen that. So taking a cue from the forums, obviously reading through the many, many pages on the sort of community-created threads and then, of course, our official Q&A, I've sort of tried to take a look at what are some of the big themes and areas that seem to be the broadest of concern or coming up the most. So I'm going to ask you pretty direct questions on some of these key concerns to hopefully just shed some light or give some clarity into what is happening.
Sure.
Okay, so first, we'll tackle these one by one. What can you tell us about the requirement to accept the new Tilia Terms of Service and Privacy Policy? So for example, does everyone need to accept it when they log into Second Life on August 1st? Who needs to accept it, and when do they need to accept it?
Good news. Only those who have a USD wallet need to accept the Tilia Terms of Service. And if you are one of those people, then you will see the Tilia Terms of Service and need to accept them when you log into your account on the web.
Okay. What if a resident hearing this just doesn't want to consent to the Tilia Terms of Service? What information do you have for them, or what do they need to know?
So if you don't have a USD balance, and you don't plan on having a USD balance, and you will not sell Linden dollars to acquire a USD balance, you don't need to do anything. You won't be required to accept the Terms of Service, and literally nothing changes. If you do currently have a USD balance and you don't want to accept the Tilia Terms of Service, you need to basically get rid of it. You need to either complete a process credit of your entire USD balance before August 1st, or spend that USD balance in Second Life. You can buy Lindens, pay for land, pay for a premium membership, etc. If you have a USD balance come August 1st, you will need to accept the Tilia Terms of Service.
Okay. The other big piece of feedback, or one of the themes that we've seen in the forums at least, is pertaining to something that's understandably a bit sensitive, and that has to do with ID verification. And I can certainly understand why anyone would be nervous. I know I would be if being asked to provide something like a social security number, especially in this day and age, right, to verify your ID. So clearly that resonated with people, and people have questions about the requirement or the potential requirement to do that. So a question about that. Can you clarify who exactly has to verify their ID? And maybe just walk us through a little bit about what that process looks like. And also, I'm going to throw in a couple of related questions. So, hopefully we'll get to these. Why is this necessary? And of particular interest is how we at Linden Lab will deal with non-U.S. citizens and those who don't have, a social security number.
Ooh, it's a big one.
Yeah.
So, as a money services business, Tilia is required to comply with the various state and federal laws regarding money transmission, which requires us to collect and verify this information regardless of whether you have provided this information to other financial institutions such as your credit card company or PayPal, just as examples. Generally, the verification requirement applies of their US dollar balance to their payment method, such as PayPal, and the ID verification requirement is necessary for compliance with U.S. federal laws, such as the USA Patriot Act and the Prepaid Access Rule, and other various state money transmitter laws and regulations, which there are many. For non-U.S. citizens without a driver's license or passport, we would need an equivalent government-issued ID to verify your identity for credit processing. And if this is an issue, just contact our customer support team and let us know, and we'll try to work with you as best we can. And also check our FAQ for additional guidance after August 1.
Okay.
I think I hit everything.
And if not, I'm sure we'll come back when we open it up to some broader questions. But thank you. That covers some of it. So not everybody will need to provide this info. I mean, just sort of thinking about what you just said, I want to sort of just get clarity for that. So not everybody will need to provide this info. What about those who have already verified their ID with us, say in the past, maybe age verification or other purposes that they've already provided us in the past? So do they also need to do it? Do you need to verify your ID for things like routine Linden dollar purchases? Grumpy, do you have thoughts on that?
Sure. So the changes specifically apply to USD credit processing, and there's no impact on routine purchase of Linden dollars. We don't need your ID. We don't need your sister's maiden name. We don't need your firstborn, and don't even need a blood sample. You will continue to buy Linden dollars as you did before. The only time anything changes is for people who are going to be processing credit. We have to do this. We don't want your ID. We have to have your ID to verify that you say you are, to comply with U.S. laws and regulations. In general, if a resident submitted their information in the past, they will not need to resubmit. And we're working hard to make sure that's true so that there's no additional burden on you. But there may be some cases where we need to collect and verify that information again.
Okay. Can impacted residents verify in advance? So, for example, people that are worried about whenever this gets turned on or what have you, and they want to make sure there's no disruption to the timeline for the credit processing, can they verify in advance?
Yeah, we're working on making that process available now in advance so that you can process credit with as little disruption as possible. I don't want anybody having to wait. We do not yet have a date as to when this will happen, but expect it, probably like next week. We'll announce it when it will become available, and we'll make sure that the step-by-step instructions for the Tilia ID verification process is public as soon as we can.
Great, thank you. Just a reminder to everybody, I am getting the instant messages or the private messages and passing those on to our team. We'll be looking through those. So if you've sent it to me, I may not be able to confirm personally due to the hosting duties here, but know that I have received them and we're taking a look at those. And we'll get to those, some of those questions shortly. Still going through some of the advanced questions from the forum. A hot topic that I saw on there was security. So particularly if there's sensitive information on file. And again, that's understandable. People get nervous about that. So what does the community need to know about, Tilia and or the protection of their private information?
For sure.
Yeah.
So We realize that this is a big deal and it's important. And in fact, we will have a blog post that goes into great detail about how we protect your information and all of the efforts and steps that we take to make sure that you are protected. But the short summary of it is that we treat it with the utmost care, obviously. All of our practices are in compliance with applicable U.S. laws and regulations. And Tilia, again, is a subsidiary of Lincoln. It exists to strengthen our process and to protect your data better while letting us continue Second Life as it exists today and letting Second Life's commercial backbone to thrive. The information we collect, it's collected and verified, and it's stored in our encrypted database in compliance with data protection laws and regulations. The information won't go to any third parties for any purpose, not for marketing, not for data mining, faxing it to any or all governments, etc. We won't provide it to the U.S. government or any other government unless we are absolutely compelled to do so through a legal process. Like if we get a subpoena for a specific bit of information, there's a legal process we have to follow, or a search warrant.
Okay. So sort of jumping off from that, Second Life's obviously a global community. It's not just US, right? So it stretches across the world, many countries with varying legal requirements and regulations. So on that topic, so perhaps you can address if Tilia is compliant with things like GDPR in the EU. There's other key regulations, obviously. I mean, there's so, the world's a big place and there's lots of different rules and so forth. I guess repeating the question. So can you address if Tilia is also compliant with things like the GDPR in the EU and or other key regulations about how consumer information and privacy is protected?
Yeah, absolutely. Tilia is fully compliant with GDPR. And if you have, if you want to see any more information on that, you can take a look at the privacy policy. It's all outlined there. And I'll send that link through chat here in just a moment. If you have any specific questions about your individual account and situation, again, feel free to reach out to our support team and we'll, get you answers to your questions specifically.
Okay, and I'll just jump in on that, and just because I'm getting some of the instant messages, again, we're getting to those shortly, but I will point out I've gotten a couple people exactly doing that, sending me very specific situations to their particular case. And for those, if you don't hear your question addressed verbally, that is what you should do, right? They should contact support. Is that what you're suggesting?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, we've also gotten some feedback again from the forum threads about the inactivity fee or the introduction of this new fee. Can you tell us why this fee is being introduced and who specifically it impacts?
Sure. So I think the first thing to say is that this actually won't affect anyone until next August. And then it's also really important to realize that it's super easy to avoid this fee. All you have to do is log into your Second Life account on the web once a year. And then there's no inactivity fee because you are considered an active account. As to the why, there are costs associated with providing a USD account. And, from engineering costs and making sure that your USD exists, and we are able to provide it to obviously support cost and accounting and finance and of course compliance, which is a large chunk of this. So the inactivity fee only impacts a very small percentage of the Second Life population. It applies to accounts with USD balances who haven't accessed their account, their Tilia account in any way. Which means logging into your account is sufficient to show activity. And there haven't been any credit processing transactions over a period of 12 months or more. there were some questions I saw. The inactivity fee will never take your balance to zero, and it will never result in any new credit card charges. It only applies to the existing balance.
Okay. There's been one detail that has not come up yet that I saw in the forums about the fee. I think people might know where this is going, and that is, how much is the fee? Does anyone know? What can we say about that?
So, well, I think I've got an idea. Since the fee is tied to all sorts of various state regulations, it's going to vary. However, the fee, will be nominal, and it'll be no more than $3.
Okay, so it sounds like we'll get more specifics later, and it will vary based on the state regulations.
Correct.
Okay. Also, I want to clarify something else, though, about this. This isn't a new credit processing fee, is that right?
Correct. No, it's not. The credit processing fee remains unchanged for you as a resident. You will not be charged anything extra for credit processing, as far as fees goes, by Tilia.
Okay. Now, I know there's going to be some questions that will apply to some, but not all people. And again, I'll do my best to address those that I think have the broadest reach. If we don't get to your specific cases, again, support is the way to go. Just to remind you, we don't intend to not respond or hear your feedback. But on the topic of the fees, there's situations, and I'm hearing this in the private chat and also in the forums, many residents have prepaid, say, for premium. And, we just did the recent promotion, for example, and they won't be auto-renewed within the next 12 months. So they're obviously concerned that there's going to be 12 months of inactivity and that they're going to suddenly get this inactivity fee. Can you address that case specifically, since we've seen quite a bit of comments on that?
Sure. Premium members will not incur an inactivity fee for as long as their premium membership is current, which means if you prepaid and your next billing date is a year and a half from today, you will not incur an inactivity fee. If you have a premium membership, you are considered an active account.
Okay. Okay, I think that's probably good news for some people. Thank you for clarifying that. Sure. I know we've covered some of the large issues that we saw ahead of time in the forums. I know there's some more nuances and details. We'll look at those as they come in through the questions. But I see that we have additional questions coming in, and I'm going to start to kind of go through those. I'm going to ask everybody to be a little bit patient as we go through this, because there are many questions that have come in, trying to sort of organize either thematically or those that we are able to answer. So please be patient. If I don't get to your question and you've submitted it, know that I've received it, but also know that we'll do our best to get to what we can answer during this forum. Let's start with those. So here's one from one of the questions. I didn't note who sent it to me, so I apologize in advance, but it reads, I pay for Linden Dollars with PayPal, but I pay for my tier with my UK debit card. I don't transfer Linden Dollars to real money, so will anything change after August 1st?
I can answer this. The simple answer is no. If you're only dealing with Linden Dollars, nothing will change for you.
Okay. Let's go to another question. Looking through here. This is interesting. Okay. I don't know who asked this, but I like this question. Is the Linden Dollar being turned into an e-coin in the future? Is it? That's interesting. I don't know.
We're not currently looking into turning the Linden Dollar into an e-coin.
Okay. Simple as that, huh? Let's go through the next one here. Again, patience with me as I kind of go through. Lots of questions here. When I buy Linden Dollars with my credit card, money is added to my account balance while the purchase is processing limit buy. Since I will have a US dollar balance temporarily, will I also need to accept the Tilia terms of service? Did you guys get that, or you want me to read it again?
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, beginning on August 1st, your US dollars will not pass through the US dollar wallet when purchasing Linden Dollars with a credit card, PayPal, or Skrill. You will not need to accept the Tilia terms of service if you do not otherwise have a US dollar credit balance.
Okay. let's go to another question here. Scanning through the many ones. Okay. Is Tilia also only for those that buy land or own land? Do regular residents who only buy linden dollars or buy lindens to pay their rent or buy things need Tilia?
No. Tilia is for anyone who has a USD balance. So either to maintain that USD balance or to process credit from that USD balance. But residents who only buy lindens to pay for their rent, buy things, and do not have a USD balance don't need to consent to the Tilia terms of service and will, quote unquote, use Tilia.
Okay, thank you. Let's find another good question here. Let's see. Scanning through. Why do you present Tilia as a new thing when it has been on a corner of the Second Life website for a while now? That's interesting. Yeah, why do we present Tilia as a new thing? Or I don't know if we are presenting as a new thing, but maybe you guys can address that.
Yeah, well, Tilia will actually start operating on August 1. I know that people have kind of seen the logos and stuff like that floating around out there ahead of time, but official operational status begins on August 1, 2019.
And the reasons you've seen Tilia logos floating are fairly, which is that we didn't want to sit on all of the changes until the go-live date, when Tilia officially began operations. And of course, there's been a lot of work behind the curtains of preparing this operation. So you started seeing some of that work coming out beforehand.
Okay. This one is, well, I guess this is broad enough. I'm trying to pick out questions that are not specific, account specific, but this one is kind of that, but I'm going to mention it simply because I think it may resonate with others in terms of what people can expect. It reads, I have 2 outstanding buy orders waiting on the Lindex, and they're asking, do I have to provide personal information if I only buy? Why do you need things like my social security number and other information?
We don't. If you're only buying linden dollars, we don't.
Okay, so then you addressed it up front as well, but for people that came in late, or just because I think that's an important detail, seeing the forums, there's a lot of misunderstanding. Can you just clarify again, those that have to provide that? It's not people who buy do not have to do this necessarily. Can you clarify that as far as providing social security number? So if somebody's buying linden dollars,
Sorry about that.
Sorry, yeah.
Find my mic.
Okay.
Yeah, if somebody's only buying linden dollars, you don't need to give us your passport if you don't have a USD balance.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I'd bring that up again because that's how I understand it, and also I know that seems to be a key area of concern and confusion. So just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you. Sorry. Be patient with me here as I go through these questions.
Problem.
There's so many of them. Okay. Here's another one from that it came to me. Make sure we didn't ask this one already. I'll read it. If we've touched it upon it, then we can do it again. I buy US dollars with lindens, and I use those dollars only to pay tier, and I never process them to PayPal. So should I send my personal information if I don't process US dollars?
Nope.
No, you wouldn't have to.
Okay. One second while I kind of go through some here. Bear with me, folks. Let's take a look at one about foreign merchants. Okay, so for foreign merchants that have already provided personal information, will they have to do it again?
If Tilia already has your personal information, you will generally not have to send it again. once Tilia's verified your information, you won't need to send it again once they've already got it in the system.
So another thing we're working on to make that easier and clearer is an indicator in your account page, which will show whether you've been cleared to process credit or not.
Okay.
And so you'll see a little, green check mark that says, we've got all your information and you clear to process credit. Or a little, we'll need more information from you when you're ready to process credit. With a link. One of the things, again, that we're working on to submit your documents ahead of the August 1st date, so that if you are expecting to process credit on like August 2nd, you're not delayed in any way. You can submit them in advance and know that your document has been verified. It will be in your account, same place you would log in to view your USD balance, for example, or to request a process credit.
Okay.
And obviously we'll post about it once it's ready. Won't keep it a secret.
Okay. This has definitely come up in the forums quite a bit, so I'm not surprised to see it in a private message here. I don't remember if you've addressed this already, so again, apologies if you have, but I'm seeing a question or two that has to do with what forms of ID are acceptable, etc. So in particular, like say if you're a non-US citizen, what forms of legal ID are there specific forms that you can call out now, or how do people find out what forms of legal ID are okay if you're not a US citizen or if you're from another country?
Well, really, a government-issued ID such as a passport or a driving license would be okay.
Okay. Let's take a look here. Still scanning through. Also, just a quick reminder to everybody, some of the things that I'm getting in chats, again, are very account specific. Again, I'll refer those folks who are in that situation. If you don't hear us read your questions, it's probably because it doesn't apply to a more broader audience. It's very specific to your case, in which case, please do contact support and they'll get you what you need for that case. Or you can I'll take note of it and we can see if we can follow up separately, but doing my best to kind of go through those that we can answer during this forum. Next question. Let's take a look here. This is interesting. Okay. Just reading through to see if it applies to everybody. I cashed out this morning and noticed that the cash out fee was already increased to 5%. I was under the impression that this would take effect on August 1st. Was this rolled out prematurely or was this change intentional? Can you guys answer that? Or
absolutely. The process credit fee actually effect on the 24th of June, as well as a number of other questions. Our original blog post, which I'm putting in chats, and I assume the chat relay will pick up. Those mentioned the dates when those changes would go into effect, which was June 24th. So it wasn't premature, just as we promised.
Okay. Thank you. This is a follow-up question to something that was referenced earlier, I guess for clarification. It reads, I thought a Tilia account was only a quote-unquote wallet for storing your US dollar balance. What is all this about logging into your online account, and what does that mean? Do you mean the website? Do you mean the second line viewer? Can you clarify?
Yeah, so it's logging into the Second Life website and your account page there. The Tilia account can only be accessed through, that Second Life web login. Therefore, you would need to log into your Second Life account on the web to keep your Tilia account active.
Okay, thank you. Next question. This is also one, I think, asking for a little bit of maybe clarification on something that was mentioned earlier. So the question reads, can you explain what a US dollar balance is? I am from Europe, and I am not sure what this US dollar balance is used for.
Sure. Sorry about that. USD stands for US dollar, and I apologize. We're also used to using that shorthand. Since we're based in the US, the balance in the Tilia accounts are denominated or expressed in US dollars. If you process credits to your payment method, then the USD would be exchanged to euros, if that's the currency, through either PayPal or Skrill.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm looking through the questions here. Again, bear with me here. Will we be able to buy or sell Linden dollars with cryptocurrencies in the future with Tilia? Okay.
Yeah, I can answer that. At the time, no, we're not contemplating using any kind of cryptocurrencies at this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, still looking through. Give me a second here while I sort of process and review. Give me 1 second. This one, I think, Grumpity might be for you, and it actually speaks to the premium account. Is this announcement related to some of the other pricing announcements with premium, et cetera? Like, are they connected at all? Like, can you speak to that?
They're connected to the overall in life business decisions. We're not, so to speak, raising premium prices in order to pay for Tilia. And in general, Second Life is a big and really complex beast, so we make pricing decisions very carefully, and we try to tread cautiously. Sometimes we make mistakes, and we do our best to own those. But the answer is no. That's not why the premium pricing went up. Partially, the premium pricing went up because it was the logical place where pricing would go up. We hadn't increased premium pricing in the entire duration of the existence of premium.
Okay. Let's go to another question. Thank you. Let's see here. Will the economic limits on my account remain the same after August 1st?
Yeah, in general, I don't foresee any changes there taking place because of this. Your tier limits and everything will remain the same. And for those of you who may need to request any sort of a change to your tier limits, you do so through the normal process of contacting support and requesting that.
Okay, thank you. The next question comes back to the topic of ID verification. And getting a few comments, so I'm kind of condensing here, but basically once someone has provided that ID verification, would they need to update the information? Oh, this is interesting. If they get married and or have a name change, they move, etc., but they've already provided that once, do they have to then provide it again, etc.?
Yeah, so if you changed name or address, we would need to get your updated information, either through a name change certificate or a marriage certificate. And we would also need a new address if you've changed your address.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Somebody says, I own private regions and I would like to pay for them with the rent that I receive in Lindens. I never want to remove Lindens from Second Life. Will we have an option in the future, maybe to pay for our memberships, our land tier payments with Linden dollars, so we don't have to convert it to U.S. dollars?
It's certainly something that we've thought of and we've been considering. I can't promise today that it's something we would be able to do, but it is something we're thinking about. And if something were to change there, of course, we would, let everybody know with plenty of notice.
Okay, thank you. One of the trends I'm seeing in questions, there's a lot of people that are not U.S. citizens, so I'm getting a lot of one-offs. I live in this country or that country. How does it affect me, etc. And I'll ask one of those questions in a second, but it's sort of a general idea to the feedback, I guess, that we're getting, that there are folks not in the U.S. that are curious about how this affects them, right? So one of these, as a sample of these types of questions or feedback that we're getting, is the following. I live in Turkey, and PayPal has been unavailable in Turkey since 2016. We have only an alternative payment method. Oops, I just lost part of the question. Hang on, let me adjust it here. Sorry, I'll start over again. Live in Turkey, and PayPal has been available since about 2016. I think they're looking at the question is, what sort of alternatives for somebody who doesn't have that in another country? Is anything changing? Maybe it's the status quo or not, but is there something that's changing for those types of folks because of this in the way that they would, work with Tilia, or how they'd be impacted?
Tilia is not an alternative to using Skrill or PayPal, so in that sense, nothing is changing. I know that there's concern in Turkey that Skrill might stop working. We don't have an alternative way, unfortunately, right now. We're hoping that Skrill continues to work in Turkey, though.
Okay, thank you. Oh, this is interesting. So there was earlier a reference to sort of the inactivity fee and how to not trigger, inactivity, etc. You kind of addressed it, but maybe it wasn't clear. Can you kind of repeat or maybe clarify a bit more? Somebody's thinking about, am I going to trigger an inactivity fee? What is that like? What do I need to do to really make sure that I don't get that fee?
Well, really, all you'd have to do is log into your account on secondlife.com and go to your account summary page where you can view the US dollar balance on your account. That counts as account activity.
Right. So to add to that, I know questions about, do I have to actually transact? You don't. Just logging into your account and looking at your balance is enough. We know you are present in Second Life.
Okay. I'm looking back the question I just asked before, where I lost part of it, so I actually want to make sure I go back. So stepping back to the Turkish question, I apologize to the person who asked that. The second part of that question was, are there additional payment methods planned? So that was the person who lives in Turkey and noted that PayPal wasn't available and that their only alternative was Skrill. I don't know that I asked this, passed on their part of the question about whether there would be additional payment methods. Or perhaps you answered it and I didn't hear that, but I just want to make sure.
There are no additional payment methods at this time.
Okay, thank you. How linked is Tilia to the IRS? Linked. I'm not sure. Yeah, what do they mean by that? But anyway, how linked is Tilia to the IRS?
Tilia will not provide your personal information to any government. There's not like a direct line where we flush all the ID scans to the IRS or anyone else. We do not provide your information to the government outside of specific cases like a subpoena or a search warrant.
Okay.
But if there's no relationship, but there's certain information to report as required by law. This hasn't changed either.
Okay. Again, sorry to jump around. About a question or two ago, we were talking about how to not trigger that fee, and you may have addressed this, but this just came in as a follow-up. Which screen on the website is Tilia? What page there counts as checking in?
Just logging into SL.com is sufficient.
Okay. All right. That seems pretty straightforward. Next question. Will there be any new process credit options besides PayPal and Skrill? Will wire transfer return? Maybe others in the future?
In the future, we're hoping to be able to provide ACH. ACH is a banking term that basically means crediting money directly to your bank account. But it's a long-term strategy that we're working on. We don't have an exact date on it. Obviously, the sooner the better.
Okay. All right. Still getting questions that go, I mean, this is going to be a little bit repetitious, so bear with me here, but if it's being asked still, I guess people still want to know the answer to it. So going back to one of the first questions that we talked about had to do with when and who and do people have to provide Social Security? So specifically, I'm hearing again, I've got like 3 that have come in the last 5 minutes that talk about, I don't want to give my Social Security number up, So can you just, again, maybe repeat that part? Who specifically would need to provide that sort of ID verification, and when would they have to do it? So I know we've addressed it before, but since we're still getting people asking clarification on that.
Sure. So ID verification is required to process credit. There's two steps. The first step is if you have a USD wallet, then you will need to accept the Tilia Terms of Service. If you don't have a USD wallet today, but you sell Linden dollars on the Lindex a little bit later, you will need to accept the Tilia Terms of Service. And that's that. If you would like to take that money and process credit to your PayPal account or to your Skrill, or in some wonderful future to another payment method, you will need to submit documentation verifying your ID.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying that again. Let's go back to some questions. Let's see if we can find that one that's not something we've talked about already. I will make a comment too, as I'm just kind of, people are probably asking why you're picking these and those. So just a couple of just general overviews for folks. There's a lot of questions coming in, obviously. Thank you for that. We've covered a lot of them already. There are still some that have not been covered. Just the process that I'm going through here is identifying those that we can or are able to answer, just to be clear. Those that we are not picking may be personal in nature, in which case you should refer to the support for follow-up. We are continuing to monitor the threads as well. So, this isn't the only opportunity for you to get those questions in per se, but just recognize we're doing our best we can to sort of keep on top of these as they come in. We're at officially about the 10-minute mark, so I'm going to try to go back in here and grab some more questions. The last comment I'll make real quickly before jumping into the next question is there's also some comments that are coming in that are not really questions. Some are really nice and some are not so nice, but that's okay. But just acknowledging that I'm hearing them all, and if it's not in the form of a question that we can answer, then talk to support, I guess, and or we hear you. Let's go on to the next question. I'm collecting in-world donations for Linden dollars for the purpose of paying for tier. And those donations are converted into US dollars to actually pay for that tier. Will I need to accept the Tilia Terms of Service, and will I need to provide personal identification?
Yeah, so once the donations are converted to US dollars and you process the credit for that, you will need to accept the Tilia Terms of Service and provide your identification information at that time.
Okay, thank you. All right, going through questions here, trying to see if there's things. We're getting a lot of retreads, so I'm trying to be sensitive to not having us repeat things, but I'm getting a lot of the same ones. Just kind of going through here. Somebody's asking again for clarification about this is going back to the topic of the fee, the inactivity fee. When will they get that? When will that fee apply for those that are, it applies to? When would they first see that fee? Is it something we're going to see in the near future? Is it 12 months out? Is this a new fee that is a new credit processing fee specifically? So maybe you can sort of repeat a little bit about the fee itself and when that would be triggered, for those that aren't clear on that.
Sure. The inactivity fee only applies to accounts with USD. The first time an account may charge this fee is a year from August 1st. This would happen if the account had no activity on it for the entire year and did not have a premium membership, because a premium membership counts as activity. In order to avoid paying that fee, all you have to do is log into your account on secondlife.com and you're golden.
Okay.
And the exact amount of the fee will depend on factors, including various state laws.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next question, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, so I apologize, showing my ignorance here. Will the U.S. Dollar balance, how do we pronounce it? Escheat? E-S-C-H-E-A-T?
Escheat.
Escheat? Okay, there you go. Thank you. Escheat.
There's no good way to say that.
I don't even know what that means, so maybe you can clarify it. This is my ignorance here. Will the U.S. dollar balance escheat to the state, for example, I guess like inactive Chase Bank balances do? I don't know what that means. Maybe you guys can clarify the question for people like myself and also answer it. Thank you.
Sure. The escheatment process describes what happens to an inactive balance, and I think each one of the states has a separate law about what that process looks like. It's otherwise known as unclaimed property laws, and Tilia will comply with unclaimed property laws in every state. I see a question scrolling by. To answer it, since I have my mic open, what we said is the fee will be no more than $3, and all you have to do is log into your account to get it. It can't be $500.
Okay. Thank you.
I totally broke protocol. I answered a question in chat. I'm sorry.
No, please.
I am now going to encourage people to throw questions in chat.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please do if you want to. But yeah, and we're also just a time check again. We're at about 6 or 7 minutes officially remaining. So I know we're not going to get to all the questions. That's going to probably irritate people, and I apologize in advance for that. But we'll try to address again those that we think that we're able to answer, number one, and two, that we have answers for, and things that we are unable to answer. You should probably reach out to our support, and also we'll be monitoring the forums as well. So just want to acknowledge for everyone who is sending those in, we absolutely do see, or we're taking note of these questions, even if we're not verbally responding to them in this particular format. Okay, I've got another question for you. Does Tilia support a company entity as the owner of a US dollar wallet, or must they be owned only by individuals?
This is a bit of a gray area that I think would be best answered by a support agent. Okay. Partially because there are so many different particular cases that this might come from. For example, whatever happens with a nonprofit might be different from what happens with a corporate entity. So I don't want to give a generic answer when a specific one for that individual case might be better.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's kind of what I'm referring to also, is the fact that there are some of these questions that, hey, we can acknowledge we hear them. We may not be able to answer them, or maybe it's not appropriate if it's a personal account question to answer. But ask them, and if we can answer them, we will. Okay, let's take a look and see what else we have here. Taking a look. Inactivity fee. I don't know what we can say about. I mean, you addressed this earlier, but with what has been said about the inactivity fee, the frequency of it being applied, et cetera, is there anything more we can say about that fee right now, or maybe repeat again what we do know that can be shared at this time, specific to the inactivity fee?
Sure. The inactivity fee 1 year has gone active starting August 1st of this year. So if an account went inactive on August 2nd of this year, the first time we would possibly charge a fee would be August of 2020. That fee would then be monthly. But again, the specifics of the fee depend on state.
Okay, thank you. Question about the terms of service is we had a couple of these actually, and just asking for a little bit more color or insight into that. Does Tilia say that it can change the terms of service at any time?
Yeah, and you can see this under the heading of changes to these terms in the terms of service on Tilia's website.
Okay, thank you. Seeing what else we have here. In terms of the ways that people can provide their ID verification, this may or may not be fully fleshed out that we can share. I don't know, but the question is, how does one provide their ID verification? Can they scan it, send it? Like, what can we say, or what do we know that we can say right now about the way or the process that one who is required to verify their ID, how would they go about doing that?
So there's right now the most direct process would be if you are going to process credit and you go into your account and we do not have your documents. In that process, you would see a pop-up in your account that says, here's the information we need from you, and it would guide you through submitting that information. I believe, but I won't swear to it, there's even a way to send this to your phone so that you can take a picture with your phone and submit it. You don't need to have a scanner. And for those who want to submit this information ahead of credit, there'll be a link to do so in their account pages.
Okay, so I know we're looking, just a time check, we're at about 2 or 3 minutes. I want to make sure that some of the key points that you guys have made that you think that you're seeing from these questions are sort of emphasized. So sort of a general open statement, also addressing some of the questions that I'm getting that are repetitious. Key takeaways from today that you guys maybe want to sort of emphasize or put, or repeat that have come up. I mean, obviously we've heard questions about the terms of service and whether they have to, who accepts it, and the who has to provide ID verification. Is there anything specific you guys want to reiterate that you feel still needs to be emphasized?
I think it's always worth just kind of going back over the fact that for most folks in Second Life, if you are not doing anything in the form of a process credit, and this is, of course, setting aside the fact that if you also do not have, a US dollar balance on your account, then nothing really changes for you. You can continue to transact as you do today with purchasing Linden dollars, paying for your land maintenance fees, paying for your premium account membership fees, just as you do today after August 1. If you do have a US dollar balance on your account currently and you feel like you want to, not opt to have a Tilia US dollar wallet, we've suggested the various ways that you can go about handling your US dollar balance now ahead of the August 1 date. If you have any specific questions that are unique to you and your account and how to potentially get through that, feel free to drop my team support a question, and we'll be more than happy to try get you the answers you need and help you out with it.
Thank
Company,
you.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, just another note. I understand that change, especially as it has to do with money and with personal information, is concerning. And I understand that, especially changes like this, very to all sorts of speculation about nefarious reasons for doing so. But really, the reason we're making these changes is to continue Second Life functioning with no changes, right? We want to continue the Second Life today. We want creators to be able to make money in Second Life. We want you to be able to process credit. And that's why all of this is happening. We're not stealing your data. We're not purposes. We're not selling it to the US government or any government or to anyone at all. In fact, we work very hard for this data to be secure. It's not even accessible to me. Like, I can't go see your ID when you submitted it. So while tempting, please do assume that our motives are good when you can. And again, remember, these are Linden employees, and I know them all. They're lovely people, and they're also working towards the same goals.
Thank you. Okay, so we are at the top of the hour. I'm going to sneak in one last question, probably an easier one for candidly, but and then I'll make a sort of a closing statement just to sort of address those questions we've not gotten to. The last question I have from the community is, does Tilia also work, oh my God, I'm going to dodge the tomatoes, with Sansar?
Tilia is not providing for Sansar at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So we've addressed a lot of questions over the last hour. Thank you, everybody, for being here and considering taking the time to be here and actually ask your questions, and also on the forums as well. We are monitoring those and we'll continue to do so. Thank you for that, including the feedback. So we're looking at it, we're listening, we're reading it, we're responding to what we can as we can. Stay tuned for more. As mentioned earlier, if you have a question that is more urgent or you have a concern that hasn't been addressed, contact support. They are there for you to address those questions, especially if we haven't gotten to it in this wider forum. I want to thank you, both Patch and Grumpity, for joining us today. Thanks, of course, to everybody in the audience. Really appreciate your feedback. We want to, we're eager to learn and improve how we can better communicate with you. And this is just one step in that process through town halls like this. It's been insightful for me. I've learned a lot, and I hope for those in the audience as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And
Yes,
thank you all for attending.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.